Welcome to Israeli Adventures, the podcast that unveils the opulence and charm of the Holy Land. This is Beni Levin's podcast, your host and the proud owner of Luxury Experiential Travel. Join me as we explore the finest destinations and experiences that Israel has to offer. Get ready to indulge in the ultimate luxury escape.
So hello and welcome to another episode of Israeli Adventures. Hey Benny.
Hello, Or. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm feeling great.
You know, I just took your spot as the presenter and anchor of this podcast. So we are just switching parts right now, but we have a very, very important thing to talk about, which is your hometown of Mitzpe Ramon, right?
Yeah, this is where I ended up growing up, you know, somewhere in the middle of the desert of Israel.
Yeah, so let's talk about it because it's a very beautiful place and it has a very nice valley, a big one that we will talk about. So first of all, why don't you start about, telling me a little bit about your childhood in Mitzpe Ramon? I think it's very interesting thing because it's very unusual,
So, my family and I was born in Moscow, a small town in Russia.
A very small town.
Yeah, a little one. My father is from Ukraine, from Kiev. My mother is
also
from Moscow.
Town.
Yeah, also a small town. And and we're living in Moscow, and my dad was an Olympic swimming coach. And in certain point in 89, he really discovered about his Judaism, about him being Jew, because in the communist time, there was no religion. Communism was the religion. So suddenly it started to lose up and he started to ask questions, and there were finally somebody to ask the questions. And we found ourselves basically leaving Moscow to Israel, arriving to Tel Aviv, spending 2 nights in Tel Aviv. And my mom is a doctor, so she took her class or her studies about, she needed to do an exam here to become a doctor in Israel. So she had 2 choices. One is the city of Tzfat, Kabbalah in Russian, or in Beersheba, the capital of the Negev desert, the south, in Hebrew. So of course she chose the hard way, the very desert way. And we moved to Beersheba, and she passed, I don't know how she did it. She studied a new language in her 30s, and simultaneously needed to pass the medical exam. And we're finishing it. And it was 89, and the year later, in the winter of 90, it's a big winter. Everybody remember it. She got a permanent job to be a doctor in Mitzpe Ramon. Now, in a Russian culture, when you go to a new place, to get a permanent job that you can rely on, it's the priority. So we packed our stuff from Beersheba, we get on a truck, and we're driving to Mitzpe Ramon. And we're driving to Mitzpe Ramon. You start to go up in altitude. Mitzpe Ramon is in the middle of the desert. It's a little town, less than 5,000 people, sitting on the edge of the biggest crater in the world, the Machtesh. And we're driving up. It's a high altitude. It's 900 meters above sea level, so almost 3,000 feet above sea level. And as we're getting closer, the desert is covered with snow.
Wow, unbelievable.
So I'm excited. And, I didn't see snow from 89 in Moscow. And now in 90, 1 year later, I'm arriving to Mitzpe Ramon and I'm building a snowman, literally a snowman in Mitzpe Ramon. And the words to describe how the desert looked like with snow covering it, it's just one of a kind. Really, I will find a picture to post it to
Did it happen again ever since 1990?
And I was excited as a kid. It really didn't happen again, in that scale. It was a winter that everybody remember. It was the first winter after many years that, the dam on the Sea of Galilee was opened so the water could run in the Jordan River. It was just big. So there was small snowfalls every few years, but every year it's becoming frozen in temperature, but it was not like you don't have the participation. It's desert. So it's have 3 rainy days average a year. So, or if it's cold enough, it will be a snowy day,
Yeah.
but it's just not happening. So I moved there, and I have to say, for me, it felt, I think that drove me to take that position, be into the travel. I arrived there. It was not easy. It's not easy to be an Oleh Hadash, a new immigrant to a new country. You try to blend in. You try even delete your heritage. I wanted to become Israeli. I didn't want to be Russian, like, or stinky Russian, like some of the kids used to call me. And I found that peace, found that place. Like in the beginning, I tried to be as Israeli as possible, forget my heritage, and it pushed me to violence. Like I become very violent kid. Like if somebody will name or say something about me being Russian, I saw a movie of Bruce Lee that said in his movie, "You use everything around you," probably in Chinese, but like I literally took it. If I had a chair, I would throw a chair on someone, and I realized that it's not me. And I studied in a very good school, high school, that was ecological, experiential, democratic. And when I reached that level, I asked my teacher to let me go into the desert to think, to have a reflection with myself. And this was probably the most important 5 days in my life because it's switched. I accepted who I am with my heritage. I came back home. I took all my clothes. I took all my books. I took out the TV out of my room. I said to my mom, donate it to Vitso, and non-profit organization. She looked at me weird. And then I started to experiment what I like, from pottery to painting, photography. But I fell in love with the nature. I felt that it's like it's have a healing process, and the desert with its open landscapes and hard places, you really can easily reflect into yourself. And my childhood from that moment was phenomenal. I hiked a lot. I met the local people. I started volunteering in the rescue center that belonged to the Israeli National Park for little animals. I become almost like an expert for snakes. You would have like people with a degree and PhD have a problem with another rescue center with a snake that is not eating. They will call the little kid, 16 years old, from Mitzpe Ramon. They will drive me. I will come. I will say, oh, he have like, let's clean. They sometimes behind the scales, they have some kind of little animals that drink their blood and then they lose their appetite. So I would find those. I get to study to experience that part in a very big way. And my parents left Mitzpe Ramon when I was 17, and I loved it so much that I stayed. I literally stayed
Without your
town.
parents at 17.
Yeah. I without my parents, I also studied in a religious school, in a yeshiva, and at that stage, I realized that for me, more important, and at least at that stage in my life, is not the religion, is the relationship with people and finding myself. And I finished all my degree of high school in the 11th grade. I worked hard. So my 12th grade, I actually get a paid job in this rescue center and help the rangers in the national park because of my knowledge of the land. And then I went to the army and I lived there with another soldier, and it's just become my home, my hometown that I chose, not just my parents because of their work they chose. I even digged on the cliff. I'm not sure it's legal, but I dig the cave together with other 5 friends. We dig the cave in the sandstone layers on the cliff, that it was our secret place to like escape and go and read books. My good friend really finished his medical like Chinese medical degree while studying there. That's the love I have to this town.
Yeah, so it's like embedded in your life, in your perspective, in your skills, in everything you do. Like
I
it's
think it's just really built my direction in life, and I think that the core values that I got from it are really following everything I do in traveling and tourism. I'm trying to say I'm not bringing people to be tourists. I'm bringing them to be a traveler, an explorer. I want them to experience, to challenge themselves, to have that change that I had by going to those remote places. And today, Mitzpe Ramon, when I grew up there was like one guest house, like a youth hostel, one field school. And then the first company built the first hotel. It was Pundak Ramon. And we all looked, who will come here to stay? And then later on, Bereshit, one of the most beautiful hotels, were built on the edge of the crater, the place where we as kids were doing our bonfires and little barbecues and drinking our first beer or kissing the first girl, like it's like so many good memories. And now you have that hotel that is always fully booked. So you need to book in advance, very expensive.
And a beautiful one.
But today it's such a hub of tourism that is like really touching the real core of traveling and experiencing the desert that I didn't see in any other place. Like the people that creating the experiences in Mitzpe Ramon, they are true desert people. So you're inspired, like
For
really
sure.
inspired.
Yeah, and you know what? And let's talk about this inspiration. First of all, by the biggest thing maybe you can find in Mitzpe Ramon, which is the crates, as you said. So let's talk about it a little bit, how they got formed, and what can you find there, the animals, the plants, everything that you can find there, and how you can travel there.
So Mitzpe Ramon is a place you go for 2 nights. Like, don't go for less than 2 nights. You can do a day visit, but it's too far from Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. So when you go to Mitzpe Ramon, you will experience what we call the craters. The English word is craters, but actually the English word is a machtesh, because it's a unique phenomena that exists only in Israel. So the definition of the word that their local researchers gave it, machtesh, the machtesh in Hebrew is the ball of the crushing spices device. You have the stick and you have the ball.
Yeah.
So the ball is the machtesh. So the definition of a machtesh is wherever you go, you will need to climb out. But this machtesh, this craters in the world can form or out of a volcano or created by a meteor that hitting the ground and from the impact creates a crater. This one is an erosion crater. Erosion crater, a machtesh, means that there was a mountain, that the upper layer of the mountain is a hard rock, the lower layer is the underneath, the belly, or it's like the Israeli crumble, is soft. So you have cracks and the rainwater coming inside and starting to erode the hard rock. And it's hard, so it's like little cracks. But then when it's reaching the soft one, it's eroding it much faster. The erosion is happening much faster. So you start to have a hanging hard rock that is falling down. So whenever you arrive to a crater that was made by erosion, and you literally can see them only in Israel. Machtesh Ramon is the biggest one. We have the big Machtesh near Yerucham, and we have the little Machtesh near Dimona. There's another 2 in a mountain called Ariv. This is a really serious hike, but it's a baby craters. But it's the same idea. You will see the top of it always will be like a cliff that is hanging. Hard rock creates cliff, and then like a little bit softer slope of the soft sandstone. And that's the formation. And if you stand in the middle, or if you look on the crater from the side, and you literally take lines, like even in your mind, you'll take a line of the top, you will see that those 2 lines on the 2 edges of the crater will be connected. You can see how they will connect and where. If one slope is a little bit more with a bigger angle or a smaller angle, you will know that they will not meet above the center, they will meet above the side, like, so the peak of the mountain was on the side. And of course, it's helping to have like a big African Syrian rift. It's with the lowest place on earth, the Dead Sea. So the water floating very, very fast, what's creating a very fast and strong erosion. So that's the phenomena, but it's really not interesting. Like, like the geology, yeah, it's great. And it's like some giant person took a bite into the earth, and then suddenly you see rocks and colors that are not exposed anywhere in the world. Like, you can go, geologists or people that love that, it's like heaven for them. But for the ordinary person, it's just a landscape that feels like the moon.
Exactly.
Okay?
When you go down, like when you go to Mitzpe Ramon to Eilat, then there is like this downhill that you go down, and there is like a big like a view, like a view over there, and you feel like you're above the moon. That's how you feel.
You're coming into one of the craters on the moon.
It just looks like the moon, and
you're
it's
right.
beautiful.
And
a lot of music videos and a lot of films are getting shoot there. So like they use that kind of moon illusion, for
this road. It's famous for all the Israeli car magazines and moto magazines, because the road is very like a snake going down.
But it's very risky. So if it's a car, don't drive there fast, because you can
take it easy.
Yes.
So for me, this is the formation. This is the beauty. This is the magic. That's probably the biggest attraction that bring people there. It's just unique natural form. It's like the Grand Canyon, in China. Everybody that go to China, Great Wall, or
Rocky Mountains. It's like a nature phenomenon,
big. It's like something worth to visit.
I just been 2 weeks ago at the Rocky Mountain. It's really like reminded me like it's maybe the opposite, instead of watching downhill, you watch the mountains, but it's like the same like wow emotion that you get when you watch that. So,
and when we talk about the moon, one of the things that I have, it's just jumping to my mind, one thing to do that you have to do. If you don't do it, it's just like go to the edge of the Machtesh, the crater, no matter where you stay, what hotel. Some of the hotels are on the edge, but just go to a place that is a little bit dark, that don't have a light pollution from the town, that today have a reduced light pollution. So that's very nice, because it's also an area that recognized to be one of the star-gazing national parks, the best places to watch stars in the world.
Anytime there is a skyfall, like in Israel, most of the people just go around that area and watch it all night long.
Meteorite showers that just been not long ago, it's just the desert is full with people, because you see the sky so well, but when you're sitting there on the edge, especially if it's a little bit like full moon or like it's a dark night and you see the Milky Way and you see the crater, because your eyes, it's taking them a little bit to adjust, but then you see the crater and the stars. My feeling, the closest feeling for it is like being in a spaceship, you landing on the moon with this. And there is one special location near the visitor center. It's called the Cave of the Ibex. Ibex is a local animal like the gazelles, but maybe more like a deer style with big horns, nice like beard for the males.
If you go to the Bereshit Hotel, they might come to your room and ask for food.
They might drink the water from your pool.
Yeah, exactly.
So there is a cave that when you sit inside this cave, it creates a window. So you feel like you're on the Enterprise. You're like the captain of the Enterprise because you have the half of the crater and the stars. So really, really special location.
Yeah, so we talked about what there is to see, but let's talk about what there is to do, because there's a lot to do in that area. We're talking about jeep traveling or a lot of like tours around the craters.
So I think it's a heaven for outdoor enthusiasts, but it's also a heaven for people that are not such a big, because you just get, it's like a bug. You just get into it. You cannot
it's so beautiful, you just can't hold yourself,
you can't not be touched or emotionally moved by that.
So
I think the things that worth doing, so you're coming, do at least one hike, even a short hike, a walk on the edge of the crater if you're not into a shape. But it can be a walk through from Bereshit Hotel to the east, where there is a sculpture garden, where that is an ecological sculpture garden. So people took like huge rocks and created really interesting sculptures. Famous artists from all over the world. There is even one sculpture that is really cool to walk that path at night, because he embedded in his huge sculpture that is like, it's a land sculpture, so it's like a path. He embedded rocks that are glowing at night. During the day they're charging themselves from the sunlight, and at night they glowing. So it's like, it's a mind-blowing place. So even a short walk like this, or if you're really into like hiking, so I would say the best, probably the most challenging hike is to climb Mount Hardon. It's usually good for sunrise or early in the morning. You climb, it's the heart.
Because it's very hot, and it's beautiful on sunrise. Yeah, just watch the sun, go up.
So it's challenging, it's cliffy, but it's not too hard. It's like 3.5 hours that you hike with the stops and little coffee break. And you sit on the heart, because the formation of that crater is like a heart. So try to imagine the center of the heart, where you have two valleys or two little like balls on the side and one huge long one in front of you. Phenomenal. So hiking for sure. Another hike that is near Mitzpe Ramon, that is a little different, is outside of the crater, called Ein Avdat. Ein Avdat is a canyon of the biggest, it's a river, but it's a river only in the winter when you have flash floods. But it's a huge canyon with two water sources in that valley, so it's full with water all year round. It's a magnet for all the animals to come and drink. So if you come or early in the morning or later afternoon, you see the animals. Ibexes, I get to see there. I was walking with a group, and one of the people in the group says, "Hey, Benny, what is this big cat?" And we're looking and we see a leopard. And then somebody pointing and says, "Oh, here's another one." So we saw two leopards. So that's national park.
I hope they wouldn't stand too close to it.
No, it's two leopards. They are very territorialic, so they don't just meet. It's a male and a female, so it was a mating process that they had there. So they closed, and it's going for 3 days, like their whole ceremony going for 3 days. So they closed the national park when we reported it and there is famous pictures from that event by famous Israeli photographer. His name is Yossi Eshbol. He took great pictures from that meeting, but that's a must-see. I would say from sites to visit, before we jump into a little bit behind the scenes, is go to Ben Gurion tomb or Ben Gurion house. Israel is based on dreamers, and I think one of the biggest lessons we're trying to do when we bring visitors to here is that you're allowed to dream, that, or you have a company. We're now here in your beautiful studios. Thank recording you. It's take a dreamer to see something that is not exist. And Ben Gurion really saw something.
Maybe the biggest dreamer.
Yeah. He's an inspiration. So inspiration, not just for our old generation, is just for everyone, because then you go to his house and you see how modestly he lived, in almost like a mobile home on a kibbutz, Sde Boker, or his tomb with the location, hear his stories. He set up almost like the Harvard Center of Israel, is the Midreshet Sde Boker, is like you have the research center for solar energy, and you can go and see it applied on tests. You can there is a branch of the Ben Gurion University, so there is a lot of things like this. I would say those are the things that you have to do. And then you have all the special things. So like I think Jeep ride into the crater the crater is so big that even living there for so many years, you didn't get to see the places.
All of the place, yeah.
So when you're coming to visit for like 3 days, take a jeep ride. 2 hours if you need to walk by foot or take a bicycle to see and get a feel how big it is, how beautiful it is, what are the type of rocks. Go to see, like on the jeep ride, we build those jeep routes with those amazing people, like we have Oded or we have Musa, that, each of them are like, this is their backyard. So you ride into the crater, and then like there was even a facility that was simulating the life on Mars when we send the ship to Mars, and like we're preparing. So there was a whole project that going with the Israeli astronaut program and the NASA astronaut program and the German astronaut program to simulate the life on Mars. So we would drive with the Jeep and see people walking with space suits and driving space vehicles, because it's literally in some places looks like the moon or places on space. But so Jeep ride is a must. If you're more into like a more extreme self-driving, you can take RZRs or ATVs, or the new Israeli invention called Easy Riders. It's like you stand and it's pure electric vehicle that can pass anything just a little bit more standing. And so for me, that's for sure, that's great way. It's a little bit faster. And I think all of them have the same value for me. It just depends what you connect to. You should definitely jump and do it.
Yeah, and what about wine and dine, let's say, because there are a lot of vineyards around that area. And it's also a very, like magical thing, having a vineyard in such a desert kind of place. And also there's a lot of, outdoor dining, that you can have.
So look, Mitzpe Ramon, because it's become like a hub, so you have great restaurants. 2 of them I can throw. One of them called Samsumia is taking a fine dining with local desert dishes, so worth visiting. There is the Chavit. Chavit is the barrel. It is the longest probably establishment. It's just they create good food. It's a bar. They have like 25 draft beers. Just the food is so good, and it's a mix of barbecue and like traditional Moroccan dishes. This is great. But you asked about something that is, in my eyes, like you go out. So 20 years ago, somebody said, somebody from a family of Shuali is a Fox family, the Fox family, that is great to plant vineyards in the Negev, because the Nabateans, the guys from Petra, they already did it 2,000 years ago, and they made wine that we know was so good in the past, because in villas, huge Roman villas of wealthy Roman, people, we would find in an archaeological site in Rome or in Greece or in Napoli, like a wine jar, 2,000 years old, that on one handle in the ancient world, on one handle you will have a stamp of the person, and on the other hand, the origin of the wine.
Yeah.
So people that are wealthy, like today, they will buy wine from all over the world. The borders are not matters. Today you FedEx. In the ancient time, you need to be really wealthy, and you need to bring only really good wine that's worth it. And we know that Avdat, that area of Mitzpe Ramon, the higher Negev, had a great weather for that.
So you can find enough that wine in Napoli, let's say, or
Like
a big distance.
A big distance.
Even today, it takes a few hours on a plane, so it's a few months on.
And today, they planted 20 years ago, but suddenly, like the Israeli wine industry is looking for its purpose. And we are discovering what works great. So, for example, Malbec, that is not a grape that worked great in Israel, but Malbec in the Negev is amazing. White wines like Sauvignon Blanc are amazing, crisp, beautiful. So we have, I think, there are several wineries, but I want to touch 2 that
stand out.
stand out, but they also can be a great venue to do like a special meal. We have bar mitzvahs, but mitzvahs that happening. We take the vineyards and we turn them into an event place. So one of them is Nana Winery. Nana Winery is a great story. First of all, the founders, they all like have this inspiring story, and nobody will believe that they will grow and success. But they also had problems because it's sitting on a route of the smugglers that bringing drugs from Egypt
From
before.
Egypt, yeah.
So it was a big problem. They needed literally to sleep because they will destroy or open the gates or the fence and let the camels in just to destroy the fields. And it was a 2-3 years process to really say, we're not going anywhere. We're here to make wine. So today, Nana Winery, their visitor center is so beautiful. And the tasting room, it's like you will feel like you're in Tuscany in the level, and the wines are phenomenal. So Nana Winery is a must visit. And in my eyes, their Sauvignon Blanc is one of the best Sauvignon Blancs in Israel. And then on the other hand, you have also it's a new probably trend around the world, ecology and biology and organic. So there is natural wine by a very interesting character, Tzur Shezaf. It's called the Shezaf Winery. Tzur Shezaf was a reporter. He was a photographer, reporter. If you look him up, he was like literally, he have pictures from the end of the world, like the Gulf War. He was the first one to arrive, sell pictures to CNN, BBC, the Telegraph, the New York Times. He have stories unbelievable. And then he just started this vineyard that he letting the wines grow naturally. So they're standing in lines, but the lines are not clear. There is like a whole ecological system, and his wines are so unique and so special that it's worth to visit. Like you enjoy the stories, you see like a really ecological off the grid farm that is doing wine in the old way. Like they literally press them with the food. There is a whole event, and you sit in this beautiful visitor center that is so rusty. It's so far away from a touristy place. If you're looking for like a high-end experience, it's a high-end experience. It's not a high-end place. The experience is so raw and so fantastic, and the person and the wines and the cheese and all this area is just coming into a battle and to a moment that you just sit there, enjoy the sunset, and drink beautiful wine. So winery is definitely a must.
Beautiful. So we can talk also about camel riding, about horse riding, about Bedouin hosting. Maybe let's talk about Bedouin hosting for a moment, because it's also a story of the desert, right? The Bedouin hosting. And people.
Bedouins in Arabic, Badaya means desert. So they are the people of the desert. Those are the traditional nomads of the desert, because you can't live on one place in the desert. Otherwise, your goats and sheep will eat the entire greenery. And if you eat the entire greenery, next year will be nothing. So they move. There is also a different area where you want to be in the summer, or like higher altitude, so you have the breeze. And in the winter, you want to be lower, so the strong winds will not hit you, but you want to be above the valley, not to hit by the flood. But they also very famous for their hospitality. So there are several places and several tents that you see along the way. Sometimes they are not even tents today anymore. So if you want the light way, so you can go to Han Shayarot, or to experience something that is a little bit more touristy. You want to have it a little bit filtered, the experience. You get to camel ride and try the food. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you can literally go into one of those villages that you see on the side and have been hosted by a family for dinner and a conversation. If you want, you can go to Ben Midbar. Ben Midbar is a Bedouin friend. Adel he's his family. I know him from very young childhood. We're pretty much the same age. He was a tour guide in his army service. Usually Bedouins are trekkers, and he's a very good trekker, but he also was a tour guide. And he started a little hospitality tent with few camels. He was the world champion in camel racing.
Wow.
From Israel.
Nice.
When he was 19 in Jordan, when we didn't have the agreement yet, almost like in that level. So you go, you do like a little camel ride. When the end of the turn point is on the edge of the biggest machtesh, then you come back, you hear the stories of the Bedouins, and you eat with your food. Yeah, we hide a little bit, he hides. He have a few spoons and forks, but the real is like they wash your hands and then you eat with the food, with your hands, but the food is cooked in a zarb. Zarb is a hole in the ground that is literally a hole in the ground that you put something made out of metal with rocks, that the bottom is like vegetables and eggplants and potatoes and sweet potatoes, and above that you have the lamb or the chicken, and it's all soaked in and locked closed under the coals for 3, 4, 5 hours. So try to imagine you're arriving from this camel ride, somebody washed your hands, you have this beautiful sweet cup of tea, and then you go out, he's inviting you, or one of the hosts inviting you to the hall. And you open that hall, and they reveal, because you don't see it, it's underground, it's under the fire, and they move out the lid, and it comes out, you just want to hold it with your hands.
Yeah.
You want the juice.
Eat it as it's warm from the fire.
So then you see it and you eat it. And one of my favorite things to do is the camel ride on sunset. Then you arrive and you have dinner. And then because of the stars, we invite, a astronomy expert, like a guide that brings a big but mobile telescope. And then we lay down after a great meal and maybe even opening like a bottle of wine that we bought right at noon at Tzur Shezaf or Nana Winery or one of the other wineries in the area, like of that winery. All of them are just phenomenal. And you just drink wine, and this astronomy guide giving you a laser. And you're like, what do I do with the laser? I give it to the kid. So you give it to the youngest kid that like excited to use a laser. And he says, point on a star. And you point on a star. And this guy knows to tell you the full story about this star and the mythology and the Greek mythology and the Jewish mythology. And then he talks a little bit about the stars and clusters, and you suddenly dive in, but it's all there. And then you go to the telescope and you have this beautiful evening. It's just like a whole afternoon, a 3-4 hours experience that you started with the camels, had the meal, and then you just laying under the star, drinking the wine and looking on stars. You're basically flying in a Greek mythology story led by your astronomy guide. So phenomenal.
Such a phenomenal experience for sure. And let's talk a little bit about the times to come to Mitzpe Ramon, because it's a seasonal thing, right? It's not good for any time. So let's talk a little bit about what can you expect in any season of the year when you come to Mitzpe Ramon.
So I think generally when we had a chapter about seasons to come to Israel, so we know the idea of, like, if you come in the winter, you should be visiting Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and then go south. If you come in the summer, you probably don't want to go south, you want to go north, like the triangle will be to go to the north, Golan, Galilee. Mitzpe Ramon is a unique place that you literally can visit all year round. The best time is, of course, from pretty much mid-September, the big holidays, Rosh Hashanah, all the way to the end of May, because then we have the summer. The summer is June, July, August, that hot.
Very hot, yeah.
But because of the altitude, because the air is so dry, you can, if you come with an intent intention to really experience the desert, you literally can, because it means you will need to wake up a little bit early. Because at night, I'm telling you, even in August, you need a jacket.
Yeah.
It's cold. It's
always
chilly.
cold there
It's
at
like
night. It's amazing.
it's high.
Yeah.
You have a little bit of wind, and you are in the nice 50s, 60s, sometimes even in the summer. So wake up early. The temperature is great. Go for a hike. Come back. Enjoy the pool of your hotel, or make sure that your plan is involving one of the springs. So you have a long siesta between, let's say, 12 or 11 to like 4. And then from 4 is super nice. The sun is strong, but as long as you try to stay in the shade and just do transition, you can do hiking, camel rides, jeep tours, visiting a museum. Like there is a great museum about the Israeli astronaut Ilan Ramon, and the geology, the visitor center. There is a rescue center I was telling you about, where I started my guiding career in many ways, that are worth to visit, to study about the small animals that nobody see. Because when you come to the desert, and if you're not active in the morning and the evening, you usually will not see the animals, because they all in the heat want to stay resting.
They have their own siesta between 12 and 4.
So seasons-wise, literally, spring, the desert is blooming. If we had a great year with rain, and in the desert, a great year means not 3 days of rain, but 5. So it's going to be beautiful. You have in March and February, it's a little bit earlier than the rest of the country because it heats up faster. You have fields that are yellow and purple and red, and it's beautiful. And of course, it's just crystal clean, not too hot. It's also the time after the winter. And winter, I love to go and visit the desert in the winter, because the winter have the rain. So if you go there after the first rain in the desert means flash floods, means all the rivers that are always dry, all the canyons, all the hikes, they fill up with flood water. And that means you have water holes that you can swim in, jump in, experience. Like it's become live. So if you know where to go, you have a beach in the desert in the winter when everywhere else you can't swim. So the water is a bit cold, but you jump in and you go out and sunny and nice.
Yeah.
Because that's it. So I would say probably the best time, spring and autumn. Winter is perfect, but at night, winter will be cold. Will be cold.
Yeah.
So, when we're doing, like I was describing, that hospitality, in the winter, I probably gonna do the sky viewing in the crater, because when you get down 500 meters, it's warmer by 5 degrees. So
yeah,
when you want to lay down and drink wine and watch the stars, you, with your jacket and little bonfire and a warm tea and some cookies, you want to be in the warmest atmosphere that you can get there, and it means into the crater. So you need to adjust. You need to know what's possible, but this is the seasons to visit, and beautiful seasons.
Yeah, just, you made me such a great appetite to visit Mitzpe Ramon, and also to enjoy the wineries, enjoy the very nice places, very nice activities, always go by. But I think that anyone that hears and watches us surely got the appetite to visit Mitzpe Ramon. So what can I say? Come to Israel and visit Mitzpe Ramon. Like, this is the place for you.
I have to say, it's not fair because I'm biased. But it's one of those magical places. It's in Israel, magical places. And today, now, you can find a hotel in any budget. So you can do activities in any budget. So literally, there is no limits to what you can do there. And it's going to feel special and unique.
There's no place like this in the entire world. I think.
Yeah.
So super recommended place. So anyways, Beni, thank you so much for this episode, and we can't wait for everyone that watches us to come to visit Beni's hometown. And
yes,
Beni will be there for sure.
Welcome. Last tip.
Yeah, let's do it.
So one special experience. It's usually around Hanukkah time. We have a mountain called Mount Karkom. The researchers think that Mount Karkom is one of the options to be Mount Sinai. It's in an area that is closed, military closed. It's like a firing zone. It's training area of the IDF. But for about 10 days, they are opening it, and you can go and see that mountain. It's a mountain that have more than 30,000 rock carvings in different sites. Unbelievable. Like really, this is, if you want to go to visit Mount Sinai, that it's not in Sinai, because there are different researchers think that different location is definitely an area where the people of Israel passed, where the paintings prove it, if you do geography of the Bible prove it, but it's an adventure. You drive in with a Jeep, usually for about 2.5 hours. You need to stay in a tent or set up a glamping site, and then wake up early in the morning, spend a few hours on the mountain, and come back. So worth visiting.
Yeah,
this
so
is
if you
probably the most unique thing you can do in Mitzpe Ramon
if
area.
you come in that around 10 days, so make sure to
Yeah.
check about it ahead. So if you get there in that time, so
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
a
you-
very
you-
great
you-
experience waiting for you.
Yeah, you never know. We might get a special permit if you ask about this experience.
All right, so as we say, talk to Benny. He will get you inside, no matter if it's 10 days or not. So he will make he'll
Listen,
do the
it's
best.
my hometown, you
exactly.
know.
You need to know
Yeah.
the right people. You know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, anyways, such a great experience, such a great talk, Beni Levin. Thank you so much for this episode.
Thank you very much, and I see you next week. Shalom,
for
shalom.
sure. Shalom, shalom. Bye, bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Israeli Adventures. I hope you had a blast exploring the luxury vacation scene here in Israel. Stay adventurous, keep embracing the fun, and let your wanderlust lead you to extraordinary experiences. See you next time for more fantastic escapades, safe travels, and endless joy to all our awesome listeners from Beni Levin.